So the second angle that I've seen in the arguments is the moral argument, which one of the comments that I saw going around for this was, all of the emotional arguments against AI art are just selfish and elitist. It's people being upset that they don't have a monopoly on culture or art, or that some people enjoy AI art. The whole concept of stealing digital art makes absolutely zero sense when money isn't in the equation anymore. So this is just a way of saying there is more than money involved. It is part of somebody's personality. It is their experience. And more than that, when you're stealing somebody's art, when Sam, I did a video on this forever ago. I think he's a fairly big YouTuber, and he does art specifically. He has got a very recognizable art style. And he came out speaking against AI a couple of months ago, and there was a Reddit page that opened up, and they were specifically taunting him with how they were stealing his art style and training the AI to rip off his art style because he came out against AI. They were specifically trying to punish him, maliciously training a robot to rip him off because he was against it. Now tell me, what is that? But when you do what these corridor guys are doing, you're profiting off the lifetime careers, labor, experiences, emotions of other people who created an identifiable work, an identity in visual arts or literary arts, if you're copying literary arts, so that you can train a machine to copy it. You are stealing somebody's identity, all of their labor and hard work and lifetime and training, so that you can take it. AI work can't be claimed as yours because you didn't make it. I'd like to say that it's fine in concept. And really a couple months ago, I didn't have an issue with playing around with it. I thought it was fun and a cool idea to just play with for concepts, in the same way that you might go to Pinterest to find concepts or ideas to be like, I'm thinking this, but you're not going to sell those things. You're not going to say that those things are your story or belong to you. You recognize that those are just references that you can't monetize because you didn't make them. But people are doing this now with the AI, pretending that they made things that they didn't.
It's kind of a blending of two things that's happening right here. It's more than just the moral. There's this, like, it's conflating the moral and the ethical, because where the legal side of it, I would say, is more of the ethics, has more to do with ethics, which is which is a more philosophical understanding. And then you have the moral aspect, which I would understand the moral aspect of the conversation being more of a metaphysical understanding. So just to kind of like address my point, because I've really put some thought into this. So I said, all right, so art, so if we're talking about the moral angle now, okay, so art is a reflection of humanity. And sometimes I think this whole like AI debate almost feels like a litmus test in this regard. So what do I mean by that? I mean, it's almost like a way of gauging just how much someone thinks of other people, if at all. This is the angle I think most of the emotionally charged aspects of the conversation comes from, and it becomes difficult to take certain individuals seriously when it is clear that they don't care if they are coming across as being intentionally spiteful, hateful, or malicious against their fellow man. The startling lack of empathy certainly strikes me as ironic, since we're talking about art. The moral angle is kind of taking a cultural approach to the question, what is art? From my understanding, in order for someone to create something that is considered a work of art, the artist would have to possess or illustrate some degree of empathy, which is really just another way of understanding humanity. Art imitating life, if you will. So this is why I am not afraid of AI generators replacing artists, as much as I'm afraid that true artists will be more difficult to come by. I'm afraid people will will become more defensive and less empathetic of one another, meaning more isolation and less collaboration, which I think that is the scenario where AI may actually pose a real threat to humanity. I don't mean Skynet driven murder bots per se, as much as I think AI generated manipulation, propaganda, etc., becomes more of an issue because isolated individuals are more psychologically vulnerable than those who have real human connections.
Which brings me to my next point, which is the humanist angle, which is also going to be very difficult to understand if you're a boardsman, if you're somebody that makes plain decisions on how to make more money, if you're an accountant of some kind. Like, if money is your thing, then you're not really necessarily going to understand this point very well, but maybe you will. I hope that you'll get the idea. But art is an expression of individualism. Like I said, you put who you are into what you're doing one way or another. There's no way around it.
Just a quick tidbit on the humanist angle. So basically the humanist angle, really, it's just kind of goes back to the morality of it. The humanist angle really has to do with like art as a form of expression or cathartic experience, a way of communicating, illustrating, or tapping into the human spirit.
Those are artists with personal individual expressions that are being trampled on. Every line, every stroke, every choice that we make, every word that is put into a book is a part of someone's personality, experience, character.
The creative process matters. So I mean, art is a human thing. It's cathartic. And for the artist, not only is it, just a form of like expression and stuff like that, but it's like we're not machines. Like human beings are not machines. Like you can't just, time is a factor. Time is definitely a factor. And it's like, say if we were to, take it something else and say, time heals all or something, like say art is like a therapeutic experience for some people. Like say you do pottery or something like that and you're working with clay with your hands. Well, it's not about, okay, you just have a clay pot. Like if you just snap your fingers and then you have a clay pot, it's like, no, that's not what it's about. It's the process. It's putting the clay down on the wheel or whatever, and you're working the clay with your hands. You're feeling the clay, and you're moving it with your hands. I'm saying it's the whole thing. It's not just about the end product. That's not what it's about. It's more than that. And anyone who actually is an artist and understands art will know where the hell I'm coming from as far as that goes, when I mean the creative process. If you just want to have the end product and it's just about skipping it, like if you're cool with just skipping the whole creative process so you can just hurry up and get to the end product, then you're probably not an artist, because that's where the meat and potatoes is. That's the whole fun of it, is starting from like just a little brainstorming phase where you start to get these little seeds that kind of sprout and these ideas that start to sprout, and seeing that develop and watering those ideas as you take it all through the process from beginning to end, and seeing it all the way develop, all the way from beginning to end. And in your mind where it started from, and it was nothing, and then it became something, and then that something turned into something much greater, and then seeing it all the way to the end. That's the whole thing. And it's almost like once it's done, if you're a true artist, yeah, you could take a step back and you can admire your work, but there's actually a small part of you that's like, almost a little bit sad that it's over. Like you're like, now what do? You know what I mean? Now that it's over, because it's like you have so much enjoyment throughout the process of it.